Welcome to Scorpio Soul Time. I'm Ronique, and this is my esoteric journey where I'm consistently learning progress over perfection. I have found a love for astrology and tarot reading and using the energies of the universe to improve my life, and I love sharing these different energies as they come through in the different lunar cycles and as the different planets move through the astrology in our everyday lives. I appreciate you joining me here today. I would love if you would like and subscribe. If you haven't already, you can hit the bell below. And if you would share with your friends and family or on your social channels, it really helps my channel grow, and I appreciate all of you. So today we are talking about the full moon in Taurus that actually occurs on November 12th, 2019 at 8:34 a.m. and that's Eastern Standard Time. It's at 19 degrees and 51 minutes, or you can just say it's at 20 degrees because we round up. So this full moon in Taurus is going to be a very powerful one because we just came through that new moon in Scorpio. You can look through Scorpio Soul Time's playlist and you can go back and look at that one because it's going to really be pivotal in terms of Scorpio, because remember, the sun is still in Scorpio and the moon is sitting 180 degrees across the sky in Taurus. So the moon is being illuminated by all of this scorpionic energy. And remember, that new moon in Scorpio was all about like things that have been hidden, your different kind of desires, passions, almost like your unconscious. Remember, Scorpio rules your unconscious mind. And so even fears, a lot of things that, look back over these last 2 weeks. Has there been consistent themes coming up of maybe things you've kept hidden or people around you tried to keep hidden, but like secrets are starting to come out? Just kind of look back over those last 2 weeks because that scorpionic energy of the sun is still very prevalent, and especially because we still have Mercury, who is the planet of communication, is also in retrograde in Scorpio, right? So I can guarantee you that you, somewhere in your life, you're starting to have more clarity, if you will, or more information is coming out around maybe themes that we thought were hidden. But since this Taurus full moon is coming on November 12th, Taurus rules earthly possessions, your resources, your job, how you make money, how you invest money, how you save money. It also has to deal with anything that is a earthly, basically like your earthly values. So your house, your resources in terms of like time, energy, things that are, we value every day. And so this full moon, I chose the Hierophant and actually got a new deck this week. It is called, let me show you the deck first. So this new deck is actually called Tarot of the Golden Wheel, and it's by Mila Losenko, and it really has some really beautiful pictures in it. So we're going to use this new deck today. And I chose the Hierophant, who is the 5th card in the Major Arcana. I'm going to show you what the one that you probably know, which is the Hierophant that's in the Rider-Waite Tarot deck. And this is all about any type of governing. It could be agencies, it could represent the church, it could represent your job in terms of ruling governance over anything. And so this tarot deck, the Tarot of the Golden Wheel, this Hierophant is a little different because you see this man who's out in, looks like he's in the forest, but then there's this almost representation of him back here. And I wanted to read to you what this Hierophant description says in the book. Let me get it in frame there. Because this Hierophant is interesting because I think it sums up what we're going to be looking at in terms of energy in this full moon in Taurus. So it says, you have come to seek knowledge in the ancient green grove, where the branches of centuries-old giant trees intertwine like a canopy overhead. In this temple of nature, people learn to distinguish evil from good. This is where they come to honor ancestors and gods, marry, and keep their traditions. And the Hierophant in the major arcana is the 5th card, and it's all about using and paying attention to what information, what governing agencies, what traditions have you held dear to yourself. Because I think in this full moon energy with the Scorpio sun, you might have some underlying ideas or almost like values that get rocked during this time, because Scorpio rules like those unconscious, almost like those like sensations and vibes of things that you didn't really know why you felt the way you do. You don't really know. Sometimes we don't know why we hold a certain value. You know, when you were a child, you were taught it, you know, at school, at church, whatever. And so you've just kept those traditions. And now as you've become older, you started realizing, well, I don't really feel that way now that I, you know, understand everything. And so this Hierophant is really symbolizing like moral authority, conservatism, traditionalism, professional advice, self-improvement, spiritual growth, and moral values. So I think that that is important, because in this full moon in Taurus, you're really going to have to examine what values do you hold dear that might not be the way that you thought they were going to be. Does that make sense? Because I think the challenge with the Scorpionic Sun and the Scorpionic Mercury is that communication, information, and ideals that you had previously, with this Taurus full moon, Taurus wants you to look at your resources. It wants you to look at your job and your career. It wants you to look at whatever you hold dear in terms of valuing. Taurus wants you to take a break, look around you, and reassess, like, is everything working for you? Because remember, a full moon is about endings. Things are illuminated now. Information could have been coming out since that beginning of the Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. And I have a feeling if you think back on the last week or so that Mercury has moved into the Scorpionic retrograde, have you found out more information about things, or is there little kind of breadcrumbs being dropped for you that, you know what, I need to kind of look deeper into that? Are you thinking about changing your job? Are you thinking about, is the job that you're in really what you want it to be? Is this really, you know, the values that you held when you first started working? Are those still the same values you have now? I think that the interesting thing is that the Taurus energy is kind of looking at your physical surroundings, but also looking at your material goals and just determining like what values do you hold around wealth. And what I have found for my own self is that, especially when you get into a career that, you know, you went to college, and even if you didn't go to college, I'm saying just you've done something for so long because this is how you thought you were supposed to do it, and this is what you were taught back in, you know, middle school and high school. You go to college, or you get out there and get into the workforce, and then when you get to like your late 30s and mid 40s, you start realizing, okay, is this still what I want to do for like the next 25 years until I retire? And I think that many of those themes are coming up in this Taurus full moon area. So think through what you need clarity on. Today we're going to do a past, present, and future spread. And I want you to just kind of think of a question surrounding your values, surrounding your wealth, surrounding maybe clarity that you need from this Scorpionic season, that you keep getting kind of like all these tidbits of information and you just want, you know, more clarity around it. If you're trying to figure out if you need a new job, if you need to change careers, this is the perfect time. This next 2-week season of Taurus and full moon is going to be when you really want to pay attention to those different messages that are coming in. So I think I did pretty good with the shuffling today. So I didn't see anything jump out. So let's cut the deck in 3. And let's do a past, a present, and a future. And I just heard turn over the bottom of the deck, and we have 6 of Cups. All right, so let me get them all in the frame here. All right, so as I said, this is a different deck, so the colors and the pictures are going to be different than the traditional Rider-Waite deck, but that's what I love about getting new decks, because you can see how different authors interpret the traditional Rider-Waite tarot. So in our past, we have the Lovers, which is the 6, which is the major arcana. We have Death, which is number 13 of the major arcana. And we have Strength, which is 8 of the major arcana. So strong themes here. Like, these are all the major arcana cards. And remember, if you don't know what the major arcana is, I actually have a video. If you look in the playlist, they're called Beginning Tarot. And I have a video that's all about learning the minor arcana and the major arcana. The major arcana has to deal with themes. These are like major themes that are going on. So you can already tell that this full moon in Taurus is going to have a lot of strong themes, because we didn't get any minor arcana cards here other than this 6 of Cups. And actually, let's start with that 6 of Cups, because this is kind of like the overarching theme of the entire time, the entire full moon season. And the 6 of Cups in the traditional Rider-Waite deck has to do with, like, it's like a bigger child giving a smaller child a cup, and they have flowers in the background. And it's basically kind of like that nostalgia card. Things of your past are gonna come up in the future. You just being happy and generous to give things from yourself to another person. And that's what this 6 of Cups is. You can see that there's this almost like a grandmother, and she's doing probably her granddaughter's hair. And you can see the cups here, and they're in this field of, you know, grass, and it's all looks like a nice summery day. So this 6 of Cups is the overarching theme of this full moon. And I think that's a good take on what I was saying, kind of like about your resources and you feeling like, you know, am I at the place that I want to be? Am I getting to a point in my career where I still feel like I'm valued? Do I still feel like the people around me value me? Or for myself, do I feel like this is going to be a job that I can carry on to the next generation, that I feel like I can stay with, you know, this company, with this career, with, you know, that is the kind of theme that is really going to be going through your head during this full moon in Taurus, because Scorpio it brings out those thoughts and ideas that you probably kept hidden. You know, Scorpio rules those subconscious thoughts like, wait a minute, why did I get in this career? Did I get in this career because, you know, this is what my parents wanted me to do when I was 18? Was this the simplest thing that you know, maybe you became a waitress at 18 and you've been doing it for 10 years, but now you're like, you know what? I would rather go back to school and get a vocation in, you know, dental hygienistry. And maybe now you want to, you know, be beside a dentist and cleaning, you know, teeth and teaching people about oral hygiene. I mean, you just don't know. I just think that in this period, when you have that energy of like the generational type of thoughts of, am I still doing what I want to do for my career? Am I still feeling valued in terms of not only how you feel about yourself, but I know for myself, I think that you get to this point in your career also that you kind of like, you've been doing the same thing so long that you almost forgot, like you're still supposed to have a passion behind what you do. You're still supposed to get excited about some values or some parts of your career. And so I think the Six of Cups is kind of reminding us, like, you still need to have a joy in being able to help others. You still need to have a joy in going to work every day. I mean, we spend more time at work than we do with our families, at least most of us do. And so you really need to remember that this Six of Cups is kind of like, don't forget the nostalgia of why you wanted to be where you're at. So just keep that in mind as we go through the rest of the cards. So the past, we have the Lovers, and that's the number 6 card. And this Lovers is interesting because in the Rider-Waite deck, you usually have 2 people standing side by side, which is usually ruled by Gemini. And it usually is like these 2 people are standing hand in hand. You know, it's supposed to symbolize partnerships. It can symbolize a romantic relationship, but it can also symbolize more of a platonic getting together with someone. It could be in business. It could just be a friendship. This one is interesting because you actually see that there's 3 people here. And this person, you can see these 2 women are almost like looking in different opposite directions. And this man looks like he's having to choose between this person and this person. And you can see that she has this green dress on, and then there's the snake, and she has like almost like a, what do you call that? Almost like wheat, symbolizing more of an earthly realm, while this woman here is in red. She's holding a cup, and she's like walking away into more of like a rocky terrain. So it's almost like symbolizing that yin and yang of like, which do I choose? Which person, you know, do I go in the more fiery direction? Do I go in the more earthly direction? And so I think that this is good for the past, because this is kind of making you look back on, you know, your past weeks, months, years of being where you're at in your career or in your life. And it's asking you, like, is it time for you to make this decision of like which direction you want to go? Like in the past, have you made decisions that weren't based on your emotions, but rather they were based on money or resources or your parents, or, you know, your friends were getting into this career, so you did that too? I think this Lovers card is really symbolizing you have a decision to make. And in the past, that decision may have been one way, but maybe now in this Scorpio season, you're starting to realize maybe that decision is not the best for you anymore. Maybe it's time to take a new route, a new way of looking at how you make money, how you save money. We're always talking about making money, but maybe you're getting to a point in your life where you're trying to figure out, how do I retain more of my wealth? You know, am I living check to check every week and I don't really have anything to show for my, you know, work? I think that's, you know, most Americans these days, you know, you're either in that, you know, even if you're the affluent, you still have this like desire to be able to have money to go to your leave behind, right? I think that's what the Six of Cups is also saying. It's kind of like, are you building a life that you're going to be able to pass on to another generation? And I think that this Lovers card in the past is really asking you to think of that. Think through what it is in the past that you need to make a decision on. And I think that's going to help you lead you to where we are in the present. So the present card, this one's kind of dark, so let me make sure you can see it. So this is actually the number 13 Arcana card, and this is Death. Death is in the Rider-Waite deck, usually shows like a skeleton in armor, and he's riding a horse, and he has that flag. And I actually think if you look back on, is it the last Scorpio new moon video? I think we did get Death. But remember, Scorpio also rules death and rebirth. And so I think this being in the present makes total sense because we are in Scorpio sun season. We're in Mercury. Mercury is in Scorpio. And so this is really symbolizing the death and rebirth of the season that we're in. And since Taurus is sitting across the sky from the sun in Scorpio, this card is asking you to figure out what is it that is no longer serving you. You can see this kind of like skeleton from a, what is that? Like from a cow or from a deer. But you can also see these green leaves. And I like this interpretation because it's actually showing you once you burn something down, once you get rid of what is no longer serving you, there's still growth that is going to come. And it's no different than, you know, when farmers burn their crops, they, you know, result down to ashes. And then once the sun and rain come and, you know, it fertilizes the soil, and then before you know it in the spring, then you have new growth. That's what this card is symbolizing. It's symbolizing there is this like old way of looking at life that is no longer serving you. And this could be something in your career, something in your life that you once valued in a certain way. It might be time to get rid of that way of thinking. It might be time to start something new so that you can have this regrowth. You can have, you know, in the spring or in a few months. I mean, this could be something that once we get out of this Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, which ends November 20th, you might start seeing old ways are no longer serving you. And I think in this present position, the universe is really asking you to make a decision from the past, figure out what no longer is working, and take that into this present full moon in Taurus and try to figure out what no longer is not only not serving you, but also what beliefs do you need to change? Because remember, that Hierophant that I showed you in the beginning, that is really the sign of values and traditions that you hold dear to you. And maybe they need to die. Maybe those traditions that you had when you were younger, those traditions may have changed now. And this is like the perfect season to start figuring out how to become that phoenix, right? The phoenix of the fiery bird that dies in the ashes and then ascends to another level. This death card is perfect in the present because that is exactly what we are in, that scorpionic energy. And then in the future, we have the number 8, which is strength, and that is the major arcana as well. In the Rider-Waite tarot deck, the strength card is actually this woman who is actually trying to tame a lion. And here you can see the artist has a different representation that she is sitting on the back of the bear. And the bear obviously is very, you know, he looks very comfortable. She's not having to like fight with it. Like they're both almost like in this perfect unity, if you will. And I think in the Rider-Waite deck, she has like an infinity sign over her head, kind of symbolizing that patience, but also that yin and yang of being able to balance between your almost like your calm side, but then you have that obviously that aggressive side, right? And so I think that this strength card in the future is telling you you're going to need to figure out how you can balance between your old ways of thinking and your new way of thinking. Going back to, you know, the Taurus full moon, anything that you value that has served its purpose, has already lived as long as it's supposed to live. I know in my personal life, I've talked about this before, but it's kind of like my career always seems like for a few months, few years, it's great. But then I always start getting kind of like these signs that, you know, it's time for me to move on. You know, I kind of have already done as much as I can do at this place. The people around me might not be serving me the way that was helpful in, you know, when I started the position. But now I'm realizing like I need to ascend to a different level, whether it's a different career, a different environment. I just find that sometimes people around me start feeling very toxic in terms of me growing for my own personal growth and my professional career growth. And so I think that this is really symbolizing that in this full moon in Taurus season, you're going to need to balance what is it that is no longer working, and like almost like you're moving into this different form of yourself. Because I think that another part of Scorpio, you know, since we are still in Scorpio season until October 23rd, Scorpio really wants you to, you know, it's not always easy. I mean, me being a double Scorpio, I am a moon, and my moon and sun are both in Scorpio. And so I think that that really ties into this need for me to always feel like I need a rebirth. And so what I have found is that the energy to be able to move forward into a different form of yourself is not an easy one. You really have to be honest with yourself, right? And I think Scorpio season is all about this depth of like, what is it when you look at yourself, not you sitting there talking to your friends or talking to your husband or wife, or I'm talking about whatever you hold dear that you know you just keep in your head. Some of those stories that you've been telling yourself for years and for years, they no longer are serving you. In fact, they could be holding you back. And I think that this Lover's card is interesting in the past because it's almost saying, just because you thought one person or one partnership or one job or one career path was what you were supposed to do then, it doesn't mean you have to keep that way for the next 10, 15 years. You might, maybe it's already served you. Maybe you have already expanded as much as you're supposed to in that way of life or in that career or even in that value in your head. Because Taurus really is that energy of like, what do you cherish in your material world? What is it that you value that is going to help you grow into a better person? And so I hope that in this, you know, next 2-week lunar cycle of Taurus and full moon, you really take a look at the strong energies, because for all three of these being major arcana cards, there really is an opportunity for us all to learn from our past, possibly choose a new direction, choose a new partnership, make whatever is no longer serving us. Use this death and rebirth season of Scorpio to get rid of what is old, to be able to ascend to a higher level. But have patience with ourselves, right? We're not going to be able to do it in a week. We're not going to be able to maybe do it in a month. You know, we've all been, especially those of us that have been in, you know, careers for 20, 30 years. You're not going to be able to just turn on a dime and say, okay, now I want to be that dental hygienist, but you've been a waitress for, you know, the last 10 years. It's going to take time. You're going to have to be patient. You're going to have to be this woman and this bear, this strength card. There's going to be some balance. There's going to be some uncomfortable times. But in the end, you're going to realize that the balance is what is needed. And this Six of Cups is really kind of telling you, realize that all of this is serving you for your higher good. You're going to be able to come out of this season with like this renewed spirit of being able to share not only your wealth of knowledge, but also be able to kind of like pass on what you've learned to next generations. Pass on what you've learned. You know, maybe there's younger people at your job who have come in that you want to kind of teach them the ropes so that when you leave, you know, your legacy of what you have built at that company, you know, is working for you. And we always talk about jobs not working for us, but if you're someone who is very content in your career and you've really made a name for yourself, I think this is a good way of looking at it. Is maybe there's new initiatives you can start at your job. Maybe there are new programs you can start. Maybe your job has been doing things a certain way for so many years that you're ready to kind of introduce some new ideas, some new policies. Maybe there are new type of technologies you'd like to start, because remember, since we're in this Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, there also might be communications that have kind of broke down in terms of like, oh, we're now realizing that, you know, these different technologies weren't working before, because remember, Mercury rules communication. So especially in this Taurus season, think about ways that you can improve those communications. Think about, you know, you don't have to implement them right now. Wait until you're out of Mercury retrograde, but I'm saying like this might be a time to really like think through how you can improve what you're doing. You can improve your systems. You can improve the values of your company. And I just think that many times, you know, we go through these different seasons and we're just assuming, oh, well, this is just happening at a happenstance. No, not really. All of this, I guarantee you, is supposed to be serving you in some way. And we need the scorpionic energy, because if we didn't have that purging, I kind of think of it as vultures who are, you know, once, you know, a carcass of an animal is dead on the side of the road, it's like they come up and they clean away what is no longer needed. And it's like we need a cleansing. So I really think that this is a beautiful energy going into this full moon in Taurus, and I can't wait to hear how you all come through it. Let me know if you have any questions, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Scorpio Soul Time with Ronique. If you have any questions around like your birth chart, or wanting to know like where Taurus falls in your birth chart, feel free to leave me a comment. I would love to hear from you. And if you can subscribe, like, and share, I would appreciate it. All right, you all have a great full moon in Taurus season, and good luck getting through all of the scorpionic energy. And I will talk to you later on Scorpio Soul Time. Bye.